Yo, what is up guys, and welcome back to McAD's Entertainment. I'm your host as always, Adam McGahee. For anyone who's been covering the channel in the last couple months, you may have seen a couple videos I had been doing on the Venom War spin-off featuring Deadpool, where he goes to war with zombies that are infected with a Venom symbiote that has become a zombie. That is way more complicated than a Deadpool story should be, but this is Deadpool we're talking about. This whole story comes from the pages of Venom War Deadpool, and I've compiled them all into one giant movie for you guys to enjoy. Before we hop into that though, as always, I wanted to let you guys know that our superhero training program is live. If you're ready to get your confidence back and finally get in the superhero shape you've always dreamed of, you can contact me in the consultation form in the video description below. We can hop on a call and discuss your fitness goals and nerd out about comics. What's there not to love? With that out of the way though, let's get on with what you came here for. So grab a high protein snack, because we're healthy here now. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the full gory story of Deadpool versus the Marvel zombie symbiotes. The tale takes place right in the middle of Venom War, where we see our mark with the mouth Deadpool as he combated hordes of the zombie symbiote-infected New York citizens who were all eager to sink their teeth into him. Lamenting that this was all kinda his fault for initially coming into contact with the Venom symbiote during Secret Wars, Wade is then tossed into a department store where he witnesses a young man become infected before his very eyes, and for once in his life locked in and said that he needed to stop talking and needed to focus on fighting to save who was left. Preparing to engage the legions in the streets, Wade was then joined by his symbiote-bonded friend Andy Benton, also known as Silence, and his gigantic venomized dog called Princess. Yeah, by the way, Deadpool has a big Venom dog, and it's cute and awesome. Going to war with the zombiotes, Silence countered one of their attacks and used her symbiote's power to release a strain of anti-venom into the creature's bloodstream, turning the undead into a smoking pile of ash. As useful as this was, Silence could only do it to one zombie at a time, where the trio quickly found themselves outnumbered and overwhelmed. Deciding that just senseless fighting wasn't the best idea, the gang opted to use their energy on rescuing innocents, where they turned their gaze to a school bus full of children that was being attacked. Noticing that this bus was on a field trip headed to the circus, this of course being a Deadpool story, things went completely off the rails, where the heroes were attacked by a rampaging, venomized zombie elephant. Hey man, Resident Evil did it first. As Deadpool dealt with undead Dumbo, Silence made her way to the bus, where she opened the door only to see that these children too had become infected. Remarking that she didn't really like kids as it is, let alone zombie symbiote kids, Andy prepared her wrench, ready to go full-on Anakin Skywalker on this group of very hungry younglings. Deadpool then turns to the camera and tells us as the reader to look away at such violence, for he also is about to engage in animal cruelty. In the very next panel, we would see he was right, where he was viciously attacked by a zombiote lion, where he told Mufasa to chill, only for the giant alien zombie space cat to tear his arm completely off. While Princess dealt with the elephant, we would see the mysteries of Silence's powers deepen, where she managed to get her hands on one of the infected children and injected them with her anti-venom. However, instead of killing them like the zombie from earlier, she was able to give the boy just enough of a dose to cure him, bringing him completely back to normal. The child would not be able to celebrate too long though, for a mere seconds later, he was infected again, where Silence pretty much called him dumb for not paying attention. To make things even worse, a symbiote would then infect Wade's detached arm, turning it also into a zombie arm, where the group would be chased by it and the pack of zombified animals. Knowing he did not have many choices, Deadpool opted to retreat to the sewers, where he told his squad to follow suit, lest they become a can of slimy zombie chow. As Wade's arm began to grow back, Andy told him they could not stay here, where he begged to differ. Besides, there was something or someone he wanted to show them. Greeting one of his bro homeless dudes taking a book break, Deadpool went through a secret passage, telling his family that he had friends. Friends in low places. These low places led to an entire underground world called the Monster Metropolis, which was home to hundreds of classic monsters living in hiding. Monsters such as Frankenstein, the Mummy, and Manphibian. God, this story just gets better with each panel. Petition to get a Deadpool Halloween special movie, please. With Deadpool delighted to see his old buddies, we would see Frank and the gang were not too happy to see him, as it is revealed that Wade was once their ruler, but had abandoned them to conquer another kingdom. Not letting that deter him, Wade told the trio that was all water under the bridge, and he was here on strictly business this time. All he wanted was a little R&R for he and his team, and perhaps earn enough money through some quick mercenary work, where he would return to the surface and resume getting his butt kicked by the zombies upstairs. Deadpool would then hear a voice from behind saying that he knew why he was here, and did not approve of his methods, for this was a place of sanctuary, not one of violence. We would then see just who this voice belonged to, as it was none other than our boy Jared Leto, aka Morbius, where Wade would ask him just how their mutual friend was doing. This mutual friend we see was a mysterious bearded man locked in a cell, wearing what appeared to be a tattered soldier's uniform. Wilson then told Morbius and the team to get this man ready, for there were places he needed to be. He informed them that this man was bad news, the type of person that not even monsters would want to deal with. Meanwhile, we would see Silence just casually chilling in the Metropolis, where she was approached by the original Marvel zombie Simon Garth and the Man-Thing. Intrigued that the young girl was not afraid of them, Andy said that she had been around monsters most of her life, and she could tell they were good people, and was delighted to meet them. We would then see the true monsters make their presence known, as the zombiotes had made their way to the sanctuary, where they viciously attacked, even infecting the likes of the Wolfman and Man-Thing. Making his way to the scene, Deadpool saw Andy and the others being attacked, where Frankenstein was furious that he led these demons right to them. Knowing now is a better time than ever to unleash his secret weapon, Wade had the mysterious man from before change into his true form. It is here that we would realize that this man was James Hudson, the son of Wolverine, who had come to bond with the poison symbiote, adding a powerful and sadistic new ally in Deadpool's army against the growing undead hordes. The next issue opens where we see the symbiotic son of Wolverine viciously attack the venomized zombie creatures who had invaded the monster sanctuary deep underneath the sewers of New York. As Deadpool and Silence watch this absolute unit go to work, they too, along with Frankenstein and the others, fought tooth and nail to save what was left of the Monster Metropolis. Seeing that this virus was quickly spreading to the others, Andy opted to begin using her anti-venom on the infected to purge it from their systems, where she then set her sights on one of the most powerful in the room, and that would be the zombiote Man-Thing. Leaping atop the creature, Silence warned him that this process would hurt, where she was completely unprepared for what would happen next, as Man-Thing's burning touch would activate, catching the young woman ablaze, where she'd scream in pain before being tossed to the ground, where Deadpool, not meaning to sound like a cliche dude in an anime ending, told Andy that if she were to get through to a monster like Man-Thing, She would have to conquer her fear and worries in that moment, for that is exactly what such a being uses for fuel to his flame. However, before Silence would even have a chance to dive too deep into the power of friendship, we'd see that her touch had already gotten through to Man-Thing, where we'd see the now fully cured supernatural being taking the fight back to these ruthless infected hordes. Deadpool then congratulated the girl on a job well done, where he said that all she'd have to do now is exactly that, but like a dozen times over, on all of the infected present. With all of the monsters banding together, the Metropolis was eventually successful in laying waste to each invader who dared to enter this domain. As the ashes settled, Frankenstein, who was not too happy at Wade for bringing this invasion upon them, told the mercenary to leave and never return, where Deadpool, knowing the severity of this situation, was actually serious for once and told the monster how bad things were on the surface, and it was their responsibility to use their powers to save those in need. Not exactly buying what the merc was selling, Frank told him that the matters of the surface world did not matter to them, for it was their fault they had to live in the shadows like this, for the surface dwellers feared and hated people like him. Deadpool, with his gift of gab, then argued back with the big guy by agreeing that yes, they were all horrifying freaks, but given how bad things were, the humans still needed their help. And besides, if they were to let things go unchanged, the zombies would soon come for the monster metropolis once more in greater numbers. And when that day came, this kingdom would not be as lucky as it was today. Actually managing to pull a Captain America and rally quite the inspired army of his own, Deadpool and the monsters emerged onto the surface and marched upon the streets of New York, where they continued their battle against the creatures, saving who they could. As Wade and the rest fought for their lives, we see a woman flee from the zombies and was nearly devoured. That is, until she ran into Frankenstein, who stepped down upon one of the beasts, stomping it completely in half, where he then grabbed the other by the throat and used his supernatural strength to completely squash its head, sending its blackened fermented blood to splash upon his face. Man, this Frankenstein is so cool. From throwing kids in lakes to saving kids from zombies, this guy is making all the right upgrades. Thinking that the girl would run off in fear at the sight of him, Frank would be quite shocked, where she would instantly give him a hug, thanking the hero for saving her, where she called him a hero. While it would seem like our heroes were getting the upper hand in this battle, we'd see things begin to unravel, where James Hudson would begin to enjoy the bloodlust a little too much, and similar to his father Wolverine, would enter a paranoid berserker rage, where he'd viciously tear anything in front of him apart, whether that be friend or foe, even plunging his claws through the chest of the friendly zombie Simon Garth. Seeing that their ally was completely out of control, Deadpool and Silence ordered the other monsters to restrain the man, which only further enraged him, where he continued his brutal assault. Knowing enough was enough, Deadpool called out the big guns, where he then summoned his giant venom dog Princess to take the monster down, where they engaged in combat. Taking advantage of this opening, Frankenstein and the others managed to save a group of children and went to escort them to safety, where a mere moments later, James would overpower Princess, where he'd tear a massive hole through the dog, telling it that all beings infected with a symbiote, including himself, needed to die. Before he could cause any more carnage, James was then held down by Man-Thing and the others, where he pleaded with them that the only way for him to stop would be for them to kill him. As the heroes fought to keep the venomized mutant down, we see the heavily wounded Princess make her way to Deadpool, where she collapsed in a bloodied puddle right in front of him. Rushing to his pet's aid, Wade pleaded with Princess to get back up. However, it was too late, as she told him that the damage was too great and that her time had come. Demanding that she couldn't die, Wade, with tears in his eyes, held his best friend in his arms, saying that he still needed her and that it could not end like this. As Deadpool would mourn the loss of Princess, we would see her body morph and mutate into a liquid blood-like substance where it would encase the man, turning him into a hulking Wolverine-like symbiote creature, where he'd dub himself Princess Deadpool, ready to dish out some hairy vengeance and end this invasion once and for all. The final issue of Deadpool's tale begins in the streets of New York, where we see the likes of Silence, Morbius, and the other members of the Monster Society fiercely engaged in combat against the ravenous zombio-infected citizens. Now fully powered up with the symbiotic remains of his dog Princess, the venomized Deadpool went to war with Jimmy Hudson, the son of Wolverine, also known as Poison, who was on a berserker rage, killing anyone in his path, whether that be friend or foe. As the nearly immortal men tore into each other, Deadpool turned his unorthodox fighting style up a notch, where he then chomped down on Poison's head and tried to calm him down within his own mouth, where the guy then pierced the roof of it with his long razor-sharp tongue. I never thought I'd see the day where Terry Crews would have competition in a big tongue battle, but here we are. Things would then cut to Silence, as we'd see her bludgeon several zombies to death, and would remark that her anti-venom was slowing them down. However, their numbers were too great, and they'd need Deadpool's help in ending this threat for good. However, Wade still had his hands and tentacles full of poison, where he attempted to wrestle the man down and speak to his humanity, where the guy would then activate his overgrown bone spurs, piercing Deadpool's entire body, shoving out some pretty important looking major arteries. Saying that Jimmy was as stubborn as his father Logan, Deadpool was ready to give up on the guy, where suddenly an explosion would rock the streets, where the mutant would then witness a frantic mother and father running with their children as they were relentlessly chased by a band of zombies. This must have activated the innate paternal instincts within Jimmy as he regained control of his actions, where he and Deadpool banded once more as they resumed their ferocious battle against the growing alien undead. United with the ferociousness of Poison and the unyielding might of the monster army, Deadpool and his soldiers fought tirelessly against the zombiotes, knowing that they were the last stand. No hero, no Avenger was coming to help them. It was this band of what society dubbed rejects against the literal world. Despite their odds, the selfless heroes soon emerged victorious, having killed nearly every zombiote that had come their way. With this brief reprieve, Wade and the other monsters rounded up the survivors they could find so they could lead them to safety before the inevitable arrival of more infected. To myself and many of the viewers' relief, Deadpool had even managed to combine his healing factor with his symbiote, fully bringing his dog Princess back to life. Thank God, I really thought she was dead. Marvel, don't ever hurt vicious alien Clifford ever again. Despite the threat being over for now, Poison remarked they certainly were not out of danger, for he could feel his berserker rage taking over once more, where Deadpool replied that if this were the case, it was time for them to finally end things. Silence, having enough blood and gore for one day, asked the men if they were just planning on fighting until they were both dead, where Deadpool then told the young kid to sit this one out, where she argued back, only to be interrupted by everyone's favorite mustache TVA member, and that would be Agent Mobius. Absolutely delighted to see the dude, Wade welcomed Mobius with open arms, where we finally got a crossover I've wanted for a minute now, where Morbius thought he was being called, only for Wade to call out the distinct difference between Mobius and Morbius. Get Morbius. With Mobius leading a team of TVA agents with him, the troops surrounded Poison, ready to send him back to his home dimension, which was the ultimate Marvel universe. Absolutely not willing to let her friend be taken away like this, Andy threatened the agents, where Jimmy, still having some semblance of control, told her that it was best this way and to let the men do their jobs. We then see that it was Wade all along who had contacted the TVA, where Mobius paid him the finder's fee for this bounty. Wilson then told Mobius they could use his help in this battle against these symbiotic undead, where Owen Wilson then straight up told him that it was not his job, where he and his troops then disappeared with the time-displaced Son of Wolverine. Enraged, Silence then confronted Wade about selling Hudson out, where the mercenary then cut the conversation short, saying that there were more zombies on their way, and that she could put that fiery attitude to work against them before they continued this chat. Locked in life and death combat once more against the invaders, Andy and Wade had their own therapy session mid-combat, where the girl voiced her disgust at Wilson for what he did, where he remarked that while his actions were not entirely altruistic, it still brought the monster metropolis out of hiding, where they fought for humanity once more, believing that this just may repair their relationship with the surface world. That, and he did get a pretty sweet payday for selling Jimmy to the TVA. Hey Deadpool, you get that bag, baby girl, and don't let anyone make you feel bad about it. Actually having a sense of maturity for once, Deadpool then told Silence that she could hate him all she wanted, but what they did here on this day struck a match, creating a series of events that would keep the young woman quite busy long after this was all over. These prophetic words would ring quite true, as we see days later, our heroes were victorious, the Venom War finally being over. Here we would see monsters roaming free on the surface world, where we'd see Andy speaking to the likes of Frankenstein and Morbius once more. The woman was now acting as the official liaison for the human world and the monster metropolis, working to repair and unite the relationships between both societies to make for a better future. Relieved to see the citizens going back to their normal lives, we'd see Deadpool and Princess chilling aboard a rooftop. Wade would then ask the pup if she believed that Andy and the monsters would ever forgive him for what she did, where she let out a rather unconvincing one. Knowing this was likely true, the merc with a mouth then leapt off into the distance, saying that who needed these friends when he and his dog had each other.